I, my mother became a Baha'i about 1 year after I became a Baha'i, and at that moment, all the Baha'is started to come to our house because my mother really knew how to cook. And of course, because Baha'is don't do a lot of other things that other people do, we really appreciate good food. We really love good food. And so, whenever my mother would cook for the Baha'is, they would all stand up and they would say, "We would like to thank Kitty for making this," and everybody would clap. So one day I came home and she made dinner for me, and I finished dinner and I said, "It was very good, thank you." She said, "What?" No applause. It's wonderful to be with people who appreciate other people. It is really wonderful to see all of you here. This is kind of an act of bravery to come and sit, no matter how good the meal is, for you to come and sit and decide that you're going to listen to somebody talk. It really is a very brave thing, and I admire that. And part of my talk is that we need to admire each other and find our good qualities and bring them out. And so right now I'm looking at a bunch of very courageous people, and I thank you very much. How many people are lucky enough to feel as though they are happy? Okay. How about happy sometime? I'm not talking about like rolling around like the village idiot, you can't control yourself, but you're happy in moments. Okay. This happiness thing is really very important because it is really the way we were created to be. We were created to be happy. In the Baha'i writings, it says we were created to be noble, but we made other decisions along the way, and so we're not so noble. And we were created to love one another, but we made some other decisions along the way, and we don't love each other enough. And that humanity really has a tremendous destiny and spiritual capacity, and for the most part, we seem to ignore that. And so the purpose of these remarks tonight is to talk about what it is that we are supposed to do. If you can imagine that God has created a refrigerator and that God is sending an instruction book with this refrigerator so that it will give you very good service for many years. That is what the teachers, the great prophets that God sends to the earth brings. They bring an instruction manual so that we will act the way we are supposed to act. And if we will continue to follow that instruction manual, things will go much better than if we make it up as we go along, or we follow our own crazy ideas, or we actually end up encountering some evil things that can really lead us astray and cause a lot of difficulty. And so happiness is just one of the aspects of human life that we really should appreciate and really strive and try to attain some more of that happiness. Like all people who are desperate, who have no idea what they're going to talk about, I went to the dictionary, and I went to the dictionary. It's a noun, and it's called the quality or the state of being happy. And then it goes a little farther, and it talks about good fortune, pleasure, contentment, and joy. And then it suggests that you check out the internet. They also have some synonyms that they want to talk about. It means pleasure or joy, exhilaration or bliss, contentedness, delight, enjoyment, satisfaction. Bliss and contentment and felicity imply an active or passive state of pleasure or pleasurable satisfaction. Bliss is really cool. I'd like to get some of that bliss here. Bliss, it says, is unalloyed happiness. What does unalloyed mean? Pure. There's somebody who knows about jewelry. Okay? Because when you have jewelry that is an alloy, there's something in there besides the gold. There's something in there besides the silver. Unalloyed means it's pure. And so imagine having some of that bliss, that unalloyed happiness, or supreme delight. The bliss, for instance, of perfect companionship. Contentment is a peaceful kind of happiness in which you rest without desire. You just rest and you don't want anything anymore, even though every wish you ever had might not have been fulfilled. Contentment, for instance, with one's surroundings. Like, I really would like to paint that wall, or I really would like to move that couch. I'm reading my wife's mind. I really would like to change all the curtains. I really would like this new floor. But I'm happy sitting here in this dump with a foot of snow in my driveway that Bob is not shoveling, which is good luck for Bob, believe me. Felicity is a formal word for happiness of an especially fortunate or intense kind. For instance, when a couple is getting married and going off on their honeymoon, we would wish them felicity in life, that they will have that kind of intense or wonderful happiness and joy. Happiness results from the possession or attainment of what considers good. For instance, the happiness of visiting one's family. Unless you have a family that it's better not to visit, that there's more felicity when you're not there. So, the thing about happiness is that we all know in our own mind how we feel when we are happy, when we have happiness. And what we want to look at is we want to look at what are the sources of happiness. So I went back to the internet and I searched happiness, and I actually searched for the sources of happiness. I got 24,100,000 results. I am only going to read about 1 million tonight. The sources of happiness are amazing, where people will, first of all, most of the 24 million, they're trying to sell you something that they will say will make you happy. So don't think that this is a pure description of the philosophy of happiness. This is, you can be happy with this and be happy with that. Here is the essence of what I have found from the internet about what are the sources of happiness. Vitamin D. And I'll bet you that Sheila could give a half-hour talk on why vitamin D really is a source of happiness. A positive attitude. I really read all these websites that this is a source of happiness. Funny videos. The self. It's amazing how absorbed the people are with the self, that happiness comes from yourself. You have to make your own happiness. You need to decide what you want for happiness, then go get it because it's yours and you deserve it. It's kind of like a battle, Like you go out there and you get happy. You get happy immediately. And if you don't have a way to get happy, we have ways of making you happy. It is really a very aggressive type thing. Success will make you happy. So there are all kinds of ways to be successful and happy. Moral thinking will make you happy. Charity will make you happy, especially my charity, especially the charity that you can give to if you fill in this little form here on the internet and give me your credit card. It will make you happy. If your senses are stimulated in a certain way, you will get happy. There are about a dozen websites that say you will be happy if you become naive. If you can make yourself really naive and gullible, it will make you happy. Compassion will make you happy. The Dalai Lama has a very interesting talk about the idea of compassion that makes you that will make you happy, a source of happiness. McDonald's Happy Meals. Obviously, they have to make you happy or people wouldn't buy them. Pets, toys, kittens, family. People will say that your family will make you happy. This is real honest to God internet research, folks. This is not made up stuff. Celebrations. Believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself and you believe you're happy, you can make yourself happy. Happy thoughts. Go get some happy thoughts. Survival. There there are several websites where basically the whole concept of happiness is your own survival. One of the most materialistic, self-centered views I've ever seen. Amazing. Kittens, Facebook. Oh, I got kittens twice. You know why? Because they're on several websites. If you're looking for cats on the internet, you're not going to get 24 million. You're going to get about 240 million websites about cats. Facebook will make you happy. Chicken McNuggets will make you happy. Share reality TV shows with other people so that you have something to talk about will make you happy. Quieting the mind in some sort of meditative state will give you some sort of nirvana for about 3 seconds. Developing love for others. Very, very interesting. Imagine just sitting here and just loving other people. It's very, very nice. You're going to be happier if you buy experiences rather than buying things. So take a bunch of your friends on a cruise, or travel somewhere, or do something together, like watch a reality TV show together. Have experiences. They say that wealth will make you happy. They say that poverty will make you happy. They say that tantric states will make you happy. If you're in some kind of a higher state, feeling unified with all other people. Caring for others will make you happy. And about 24 million other things. But one bizarre opinion caught my attention because it was the result of serious research about what it is that makes people happy. You ready for this? They say that gossip makes people happy. That scientifically, there are endorphins that are excited by gossip. And it helps you bond with someone else. Now, the people on this website, in fact, where the heck is Sheila? What are those things called? What's progesterone, Sheila? That progesterone? It's a female hormone because that's where most gossip occurs. That's what the website said. I didn't say it. I didn't make it up. But that there is a bonding between the people who gossip, and this is why these reality TV shows with real people who you can either like or hate, like I really don't like this guy or I really like that guy, and it's very therapeutic, they say. Oh, it's a ridiculous article. Just type in gossip, the source of happiness and health, and you get to read this stupid article. But one of the things that the Baha'i teachings forbids is gossiping and backbiting. Because what it does is it puts up walls between people. It creates estrangement between people. It makes it impossible to connect with them on any kind of decent human level. And so this was really quite bizarre. Source of happiness, gossip. I really would like to talk about these people, whoever they are, for a long time. Because I've got a lot of opinions about them. But I think that would be gossiping. I decided that for the talk tonight, I would try to see what happiness is in a Baha'i context. Baha'i faith began in the last century, and the founder of the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah, wrote over 100 books, and he basically prescribed for mankind the maturity of mankind, the maturity of the human race. That he outlined things that if we would do these things, the human race would stop acting like barbaric animals and would begin acting like the noble creatures that we were created to be. And there are many, many aspects of his teachings that attracted many, many people. In the last century, probably the foremost Orientalist studying the Middle East and especially Persia, and especially royal Persia, was a fellow named Edward Granville Brown. And this fellow, Edward Granville Brown, studied the Baha'i teachings from a distance, And because Baha'u'llah had been imprisoned and exiled from Iran, from Persia, from Tehran, and he was sent to Baghdad and then to Adrianople and then to Constantinople and then finally to a part of Syria called Akka, Brown just kept following him around. And finally, in 1890, Brown met Baha'u'llah. He was a British Orientalist, one of the few Western scholars to meet Baha'u'llah, and he wrote a portrait, a pen portrait of Baha'u'llah that is just exquisite. His entire encounter with him was something very memorable, and in it, Baha'u'llah recited some words that Brown wrote down. He was fluent in Persian, and it became what is really understood today as the basic understanding of what the teachings of the Baha'i Faith are. And this is the earliest reference that I can find for the word happiness. It's in the Baha'i scriptures hundreds of times, and since then, but this is the first one. And these are the words that Edward Brown said, had heard from Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah first of all said, because he knew that Brown had been chasing him, he said, "Praise God that you have attained this meeting. Praise God you're here." He said, "You have come to visit a prisoner and an exile." And then he says, "We desire but the good of the world and the happiness of the nations. Yet they deem us a stirrer-up of strife and sedition, worthy of bondage and banishment. That all nations should become one in faith, and all men as brothers. That the bonds of affection and unity between the sons of men should be strengthened. That diversity of religion should cease, and differences of race be annulled. What harm is there in this? Yet so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come. Do not you in Europe need this also? Is not this that which Christ foretold? Yet do we see your kings and rulers lavishing their treasures more freely on the means for the destruction of the human race than on that which would conduce to the happiness of mankind. These strifes and this bloodshed and discord must cease, and all men be as one kindred and one family. Let not a man glory in this, that he loves his country. Let him rather glory in this, that he loves his kind." The concept of happiness is not the happiness of me. The concept in the Baha'i religion is the happiness of nations, the happiness of mankind, the happiness of others, and that I am supposed to be the instrument that delivers that happiness. I am supposed to be the means that brings happiness to other people in the world. And he has written prescriptions about how to do this, how the world can get better if we will simply rise to the station for which we were created. That one indeed is a man who today dedicateth himself to the service of the entire human race. This is the punchline here. The service of the entire human race. That is the ultimate source of happiness. Mark Twain's son heard him say that we are here to serve others. And Mark Twain's son said to Mark Twain, "Well, what are the others here for?" The great being saith, "Blessed and happy is he that ariseth to promote the best interests of the people and kindreds of the earth." Baha'i faith says that if you want to be happy, arise and promote the best interests of other people and serve them. Happy the soul that shall forget his own good, and like the chosen ones of God, vie with his fellows in service for the good of all. The secret of happiness is the secret of giving. It's the secret of sacrificing yourself for some other person, for some greater cause, for something that is noble. Man is he who forgets his own interests for the sake of others. His own comfort he forfeits for the well-being of all. Nay, rather, his own life he must be willing to forfeit for the life of mankind. Such a man is the honor of the world of humanity. This is the standard for which we were created, not to be groveling around at the curb looking for pennies or some advantage for ourselves. If that makes you happy, I would really like to talk to you and figure out how happy you are. Such a man is the glory of the world of mankind. Such a man is the one who wins eternal bliss. Remember that bliss? Such a man is near to the threshold of God. Such a man is the very manifestation of eternal happiness. And this eternal happiness is he's calling us to, which is opposed to the very temporal happiness, to the very hit and miss, quick happiness. He then gives us some things to understand. He basically has said, don't confuse what God has sent to the earth with what you call religion today. Because what you call religion today has been quite corrupted. It has been used, bent, molded, shaped for someone's advantage. Not for the intended purpose of service to humanity, but for someone's benefit. The greatest bestowal of God in the world of humanity is religion. For assuredly the divine teachings of religion are above all other sources of instruction and development of man. This is the manual. This is the instruction manual so that we know how to live. This business about don't kill and don't steal and the Ten Commandments and all these very, very basic laws of human civilization and human interaction, these did not come from people. They came from God. They came from God through these teachers. We're not smart enough to make that up. If people made up the Ten Commandments, it would look like the 24 million things on the websites on how to get happy. The 24 million commandments. Religion is so scattered and so splintered and so destroyed and lacking of unity. When the word itself, religion, is a Greek word, religos. Anybody live in Tarpon Springs? You must know this word. Religos. Religos means to take sticks, and it means to tie the sticks together so that the sticks are unbreakable. That's what the word religion means. And what do we translate that to in the 21st century? Let's blow somebody up in the name of my religion. Not let's tie people together and tie the sticks together and build bonds of unity and build bonds of affection and build bonds of peace and justice. But no, we're going to blow ourselves up and call it religion. One of the things that Baha'is are called upon to do in their service to humanity is to redefine religion to this generation and to the generation that you live in and remind them what real religion is. It has been the basis of all civilization and progress in the history of mankind. It's not showing its greatest face right now, and it is up to us to serve mankind by trying to redeem and reclaim the good name of religion. Education. This is one of the great steps and one of the great prescriptions that the Baha'i teachings have for mankind in order to bring happiness to the world. The world is surrounded and living in a cesspool of ignorance. No wonder we consistently make the wrong decisions. And when we have what's called education, it teaches people the wrong things. It bores them to tears, or it teaches them how to make money. It teaches them how to make a living and not how to make a life. It teaches them how to put, two nickels together, but we can't put two people together. Education makes the ignorant wise, the tyrant just. It promotes happiness, it strengthens the mind, and it develops the will, and it makes fruitless trees of humanity. The people who are producing nothing for the benefit of humanity, it helps them to produce something that will help people. Education is a law of the Baha'i faith. You must educate your children. We ask God, this is another prescription, we ask God to endow human souls with justice so that they may be fair. They may strive to provide for the comfort of all. That each member of humanity may pass his life in the utmost comfort. Then this material world will become the very paradise of the kingdom. This elemental earth will be a heavenly state, and all servants of God will live in the utmost joy, happiness, and gladness. We must all strive and concentrate all of our thoughts in order that such happiness may accrue to the world of humanity. We cannot allow injustice. For us to serve the world and to help the world move to a new plane of unity and a new plane of fairness and equity, we have got to be embodiments of justice. And that means speaking out when there is injustice, and it means living justly yourself. The night that I heard about the Baha'i faith, I was very much involved in the anti-war movement, and I didn't know it, but I was searching all over the place, trying to find a source of justice. And the fellow whose house I was at, he sits down, and there were about 30 of us there, and what this man did was he opened up a book, and he read these words that Baha'u'llah had written 100 years before. And he said, "The best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom, if thou desirest me. And neglect it not, that I may confide in thee." And by the time he got to the end of that little passage, I knew that I was going to be a Baha'i. Because it just struck me that this is a world that suffers so much because of prejudice, because of hatred, because of this disease that is passed from one generation to another. It's a fatal disease, and it's prejudice, and it causes wars, and it causes it causes everything. Prejudice is the root of evil in this world. And because of that, I don't know why that thing, that word, the best beloved of all things in my sight, it just hit me. And we cannot ignore it. We cannot let our children and their children live in a world like the world that we have today. The equality of men and women. This is another prescription. Imagine Baha'u'llah in 1870 sitting in Syria in a society dominated by men to the point where women were considered as cattle and below cattle. He says the equality of men and women, in the estimation of God, there is no distinction of sex. The one whose heart is most pure, whose deeds, and I want to talk about deeds here, and service in the cause of God, in God's business. If you're working in God's business, it's the purity of your heart and your deeds and your service that are greater and nobler, that person is more acceptable before the divine threshold, whether male or female. Why should man, who is endowed with a sense of justice and sensibilities of conscience, be willing that one of the members of the human family should be rated and considered as subordinate? This is 1870. Such differentiation is neither intelligent nor conscientious. Therefore, the principle of religion that women must be given the privilege of equal education with man and full right to his prerogatives. That is to say, there must be no difference in the education of male and female, in order that womankind may develop equal capacity and importance with man in the social and economic equation. It's an absolute law of the Baha'i faith. And for us to serve mankind, we have to be out there fighting for this. We have to be out there calling people on the jokes they tell, the hiring practices they have, the way they treat people who are not men. And why is it important to do that? It is important to do that because it is just. It is important to do that because I have a daughter, and I really don't want my daughter treated in a way that would be shameful for the human family. And I don't want any of your daughters to be treated that way. But there is an overarching, more important reason. Once we have the equality of women and men, then the world will attain unity and harmony. In past ages, humanity has been defective and inefficient because it has been incomplete. War and its ravages, we're talking about war now, this is the subject that brought me into the Baha'i teachings. War and its ravages have blighted the world. The education of women will be a mighty step towards its abolition and ending, for she will use her whole influence against war. Woman rears the child and educates the youth to maturity. She will refuse to give her sons for sacrifice upon the field of battle. In truth, she will be the greatest factor in establishing universal peace and international arbitration. Assuredly, women will abolish warfare among mankind, inasmuch as human society consists of the two parts, the male and the female, each the complement of the other. The happiness and stability of humanity cannot be assured unless both are perfected. Therefore, the standard and status of man and women must become equalized. This is not something that we can rest about. This is not something that we can be passive about. This is not a convenient thing. It is very inconvenient, and when it comes to the equality of women and men, I am very proud that the Baha'i men I know are the ones who open their mouths and they speak on behalf of this. They don't wait for women to have to bring this up. And I am very honored to be among many, many men who are not afraid to speak out. I have a daughter and two sons, and believe me, those are three very, very ardent feminists, all of them. And it's a wonderful thing to see. Happiness equals service. We should all visit the sick. When they are in sorrow and suffering, it is a real help and benefit to have a friend come. Happiness is a great healer to those who are ill. In the East, it is the custom to call upon the patient often and meet him individually. The people in the East show the utmost kindness and compassion to the sick and suffering. This has a greater effect than the remedy itself. You must always have this thought of love and affection when you visit the ailing and the afflicted. This is personal service. This is not something you can dial up a website and have them go visit your friend for you. This is a personal service to a personal person. This is the kind of standard that we have if you want to attain that kind of happiness. Humor, happiness, joy are characteristics of a true Baha'i life. True happiness and joy and humor that are parts of a balanced life that includes serious thought. It also includes compassion. It also includes the humble servitude. These are the characteristics that enrich life and add to its radiance. By good deeds, pure lives, humility, and meekness, be a lesson for others. No one's heart is to feel hurt, nor never be a source of grief to anyone, for there is no greater satisfaction than being a source of joy to hearts. Become like angels in heaven, sources of happiness to souls. We've not only got to bring about world peace by bringing about justice and the equality of women and men through education, we've also got to help our neighbor who is sick. We've got to do the macro and the micro if we want to be happy, if we want to attain that kind of happiness. In Paris in 1911, and I'll bet you Gilbert's grandfather heard him give this talk. We have a great picture of Gilbert's grandfather standing under the Eiffel Tower with Abdu'l-Baha, whose picture is over there, who is the son of Baha'u'llah. And in Paris, he said, follow the precepts of Baha'u'llah to tend the sick, to raise the fallen, to care for the poor and the needy, and to give shelter to the destitute, and protect the oppressed, and comfort the sorrowful, and love the world of humanity with all your hearts. Day by day, each member will advance and become more and more spiritual. And then he laid out a half a dozen things for them to do, just in case they couldn't figure it out. And that's really what I love about the Baha'i writings. When you read these things, you take it so personally. It is so clear and it is so without doubt what you're supposed to do. To show compassion and goodwill to all mankind. Think about the word all. Think about show. I can have compassion, but I've got to show it. I can have goodwill, but I've got to show it, which means I've got to do something. I've got to act. This is why compassion is great, but compassion is not acting. Compassion is not service. I can have a heart of gold, but if I don't do something, you wouldn't know that my heart was gold. The only thing I know that has a heart of gold is a hard-boiled egg, and all that will do is raise your cholesterol. Okay? So a heart of gold doesn't matter. Actually, I would prefer a heart that is not so hot in the gold area, but is attached to some feet who are attached to the service area. Because by doing it, you can make your heart a little more golden. You can make your heart better. To render service to humanity. The word render is a very active verb. It's not to wish well for humanity, it's to render service to humanity. To endeavor to guide and enlighten those in darkness. That means that you have got to extend yourself. You've got to talk to people. You've got to share what you know with love and with radiance and with understanding and some sensitivity. Be kind to everyone and show forth affection to every living soul. To be humble in your attitude towards God. To be constant in prayer to Him, so as to grow daily nearer to God. To be so faithful and sincere in all your actions that every member, now he's talking to this group of Baha'is in Paris, he said that every member here will be known as embodying the qualities of honesty, love, faith, kindness, generosity, and courage. You're supposed to act this thing. You're not supposed to just believe this thing. If you're a Baha'i and you believe the teachings, that's wonderful. But it doesn't matter if you don't act. It doesn't matter if you're not engaged in the service of the human race. Briefly, all effort and exertion put forth by man from the fullness of his heart is worship. This is a very important point. Baha'is have prayers. Baha'is have holy writings. We have holy books. We have meditations. We have times when we are supposed to fast and pray and be in a quiet and meditative state. But not for very long. Because it is the effort and the exertion that comes from the fullness of your heart that is worship. For the first time, prayers are equated with service. We used to think that you worship God by getting down and lighting candles and bowing down and doing things in a building. And now, what the Baha'i teachings are telling the Baha'is is the way you worship God is you serve the people. You serve the people of God. If it is prompted by the highest motives and the will to do service to humanity, then it is worship. This is worship, to serve mankind and to minister to the needs of the people. Service is prayer. Service is prayer. Work performed in a spirit of service is worship. Albert Schweitzer, who won the Nobel Prize in 1952, because he was a medical missionary who went to Gabon in West Africa. He went to Gabon in the 1930s and set up a hospital, and he did everything in that hospital, and I mean everything. He raised the standard of health in that area of that nation, and he became a magnet for people wanting to do good in their lives. His writings are like fire. and his life is like an extraordinary example. And these quotes from Albert Schweitzer have always been favorites of mine. Do something wonderful, he said, because people might imitate it. What a great reason to do something terrific, because somebody else might do it too. Do something for somebody every day for which you do not get paid. Life becomes harder for us when we live for others, but it also becomes richer and happier. This is for the man who was the only doctor within about a 300-mile radius. And this one here is one that I had on my dashboard on the visor of my car for many years, in an old car that ended up getting stolen by someone who did not go to Baha'i children's classes, where you learn all this stuff from about the age of like 1. The only ones among you who will be really happy are those who will have sought and found a way to serve. And so it really comes down to us, that we know ourselves, we know what we think makes us happy, and we know that service to humanity is what makes us ultimately human, it's what makes us ultimately noble, it's what makes us ultimately spiritual in the eyes of our Creator in this day. The days of idol worship are over. The first time I heard a Baha'i say that, I said, what do you mean the days of idol worship are over? He said, when Moses came, Moses said we have to stop worshiping idols, I-D-O-L. And when Baha'u'llah came, he said we have to stop idol worship, I-D-L-E, worship. Worship where we sit down on a chair and think that that's worship. That is not good enough anymore. We can't be worshiping idols, and we can't be worshiping idol. We have got to get up and get to work and show the people of the world what God has in mind for this world in this day. Bill, I'm going to flash a prayer up here, and I'm wondering if you would come on up here and read it out loud for us, okay?
O God, refresh and gladden my spirit, purify my heart, illumine my powers. I lay all my affairs in thy hand. Thou art my guide and my refuge. I will no longer be sorrowful and grieved. I will be a happy and joyful being. O God, I will no longer be full of anxiety, nor will I let trouble harass me. I will not dwell on the unpleasant things of life. O God, thou art more friend to me than I am to myself. I dedicate myself to thee, O Lord.
I'm hoping that everyone has an idea about something that they can do. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be extraordinarily large. It just has to be sincere, that we can do for each other, that we can touch someone's heart and help them. We can find someone in pain and take some of that pain away. We can find someone who is hurting and really, really help them look optimistically on tomorrow. I've talked way, way too much. What I'm hoping is that we will all go out here, finish up those cream puffs, which really deserve to be finished up. Don't leave 1 calorie in this Baha'i Center. Eat it all. And that while you're doing that, that you find someone to talk to, find someone to ask a question about this, because this is all very basic, simple Baha'i stuff. This is not the PhD stuff. But because it's simple, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Because it is simple, it means that it is hard. It means that it takes sacrifice. It takes a lot of work to decide that you are going to do your best to change the world. Thank you very much.